In today's video, we're looking at how to use a patterning bit for cutting shapes or cleaning out the bottom of holes, dados, or grooves. As you can see, this project required a lot of holes, 40 to be exact, and the method I chose to make these holes was to use an 1 1/8" Forstner bit. Forstner bits, if you don't already know, are drill bits that are designed to drill flat bottomed holes. However, the downside is that they do leave a small visible hole where the tip of the drill bit was. In some cases that would be acceptable, but for this project it's not. So how do we get rid of those marks? Well, the method we're going to look at today utilizes a patterning bit and a small trim router with a plunge base. This router's manufacturer gives you the option to buy a separate plunge base. So all you have to do to turn this fixed base router into a plunge router is to remove the motor from one base and install it in the other. As far as the router bit itself, we're using what's called a patterning bit, which is designed with a guide bearing that's installed at the top of the bit. This bearing then rides along a pattern, which is basically a template made into a particular shape. As that bearing follows the pattern, the bit cuts the wood below, matching or making an exact copy of that shape. Today, however, we're using this bit slightly different, and that difference is that we're actually using these existing holes as the pattern. But before we start cutting, we have to first determine the right size bit to use. In our example, these holes are about 1/2 inch or 13 millimeters deep, and we only need to remove around 1/8 inch or 3 millimeters to clean up the bottom. Therefore, we need to use a bit that has a cutting length of around 1/2 inch or less, and here's why. If we choose a bit that's too long, the bearing will not be able to ride along the inside of the holes unless the bit is set to make a deep cut, and that's not what we're looking to accomplish here. You can, of course, add material above the workpiece by making a circular template, but that creates more work than what it's worth, especially for these many holes. To make things easy and without any extra work, let's go with a bit that is 1/4 inch long. As a side note, you'll often see bits like these labeled with a CH, CD, and a CL. SH stands for shank diameter, which in our case, this bit has 1/4 inch shank. CD stands for cutting diameter, which in this case is 1/2 inch, and CL, which is the cutting length, is 1/4 inch. Moving on, with a bit installed into the router, go ahead and set the depth to remove about 1/8 inch or 3 millimeters. Start the router and then lower it into the hole. Once lowered down to full depth, work your way to an edge and then follow the inside of the hole in a clockwise direction. If your hole is large enough that you have remaining material left in the middle, you can always clean it out by working from the bottom to the top and from the left to the right. This routing direction ensures that you're always making push cuts as you remove the remaining material. However, this routing direction isn't always necessary, but it is important if you're just getting started using a router. And within a few minutes, all 40 holes are completely cleaned out and now looking professionally done. I do want to make you aware that you want to make sure that you understand what your total depth is going to be before you start to drill the holes. For example, if you're looking for a total hole depth of 1 inch or 25 millimeters, you're first going to want to drill about 7/8 or 22 millimeters down with the Forstner bit, and then you're going to switch over to the router bit to finish off the remaining bit of material to get to your total 1 inch depth. Last, I do want to mention it's very important to keep the holes clean. This is a patterning bit, meaning that it's riding along the inside surface. So if you have some waste material stuck there, the bit may pattern over that and leave you with some jagged edges. It's not that big of a deal. You can always blow that out and make a final pass to clean it up, but it's something I wanted you to be aware of. Now that you see how the patterning bit works for holes, cleaning out grooves or dados is just as easy. For those of you who don't know, dados are 3-sided trenches that are cut across the grain of the wood, and grooves are the same 3-sided trenches, just cut with the grain. Once the dado or the groove is roughed out, set the router depth to remove your desired amount of material, and begin routing from left to right on the furthest side of the trench. Then to remove the remaining material, that is if your bit isn't wide enough to do it in one pass, ride the bearing now on the closest side of the trench, moving from right to left. Again, this is in keeping with the best routing direction for safe cutting. As you can see, the sky is the limit when it comes to patterning bits, but I hope you're able to pick up a few little tips from this quick video. If you have questions or need help with what you're currently working on, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, send me a picture or video. I'd be glad to help you out. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you guys in the next video.